Hi, everybody. Welcome to another installment or episode of Savvy Spiritual Sisters. I got my sisters with me here. And we are, and we always are, talking about well being topics, uh, practical well being topics from the perspective of the mystic, the yogini, and the priestess. And I am Amber Chamberlain, the mystic.
I'm Mina Habibi, the yogi.
My name is Lisa Adams, and I'm the priestess.
So, welcome to another episode of our show. And today we're talking about uh, mothering and the mother wound and the mother archetype, every aspect of being a mother, and, about the mother energy or the mother energetic. So, from a lot of different angles today, we have about 30 minutes together. We like to get right into it. So, when you guys hear me say, and here comes some energy, so when you guys hear me say, and that's not, somebody's got a horn blowing, right? Is that you? Okay.
It's the train. Sorry, everyone. It's the train. It's a block away.
What comes up for you guys when I just say the word mother? What hits over here?
Well, I'll start because the thing that always comes up is, God, again with the mother, because everything, and part of the reason this topic came up for today is because Sunday is Mother's Day. And I remember last year when I was in my yoga astrology training, and it might have been the month of Cancer, which is about the mother. And it was talking about how loving and wonderful and nurturing the mother is. And, it asked for a writing assignment about the wonderful mother experience. And that's when, and I had a mentor at the time through this program. And that's when my essay started, again with the mother. Why always with the mother? Because my mother experience was not a good one. My mother was mentally ill. She was far from nurturing, was not the mother that we honor on Mother's Day. And I was never able to honor her in that way. I couldn't even go to the drugstore and buy a card that had a sentiment that was truthful to me. So that's what comes up for me is, again with the mother.
Very well said. What about you, Lisa?
Well, similar to Mina, a part of like my inner child is incredibly aware that at a very young age, or maybe from the very beginning, my mom was checked out. There was not a lot of bonding or nurturing or even ever affection between us. She never was one of those kind of mothers. And, I always felt that there was something missing and there were things that I wasn't getting that I wanted or needed. And, I think that's probably the case with a lot of kids when they're growing up is that they're wired in a certain way that they need certain things from their parents, but they maybe don't get them. And the things that I needed, I never felt that I got. And then later on in life, I'm really clear that not only did I never get them, I never will. My mom's not able or capable. I've been able to release a lot of my resentment and anger around that. But it was like that was how the original wound of abandonment got sort of, implanted or embedded in me at a very young age. And then I got kicked out when I was 16. So I've been on my own since then. And then I was disowned a second time by my mother and my family a few years ago when I launched my website and kind of came out as, hey, I'm doing this thing. And my parents were just like, they just freaked out. And so I was disowned again. So it's like, it's been a repetitive sort of cycle.
Wow, wow, wow. So in my case, I have my orientation to mothering and what is mother is sort of twofold now. One is, like Nina, I had have a mentally ill mother who now has dementia, has Alzheimer's, and I am also a mother. So it's been really healing and recuperative and reestablishing or establishing to be a mother and to be the kind of mother I would have liked to have had to a certain extent, right? But I also realized that my childhood was spent mothering my mother, right?
Yep.
My mother's mother, and being the heart and hearth keeper of my family home, the neighbor, the social grace, the inviter, the the community connector for my family, the things that usually a mom probably does, I guess. Like my but let's put it this way, I also had two incredible grandmothers. Let's bring grandmas in. One grandmother was the social connector, was the hearth keeper, was that fresh, clean home, food, nutrition, beauty, right? And the other grandmother, my mother's mother, was the total, birthday in February. Who are our February people? The best.
The Aquarians.
Aquarians. Woo! And she was completely weirdo Aquarian, like February 2nd, February 4th. So she couldn't give a flying F what anybody else thought or needed. She did her life her way and her family her way. And so it was a nice balance to my mother. So why is it, and I know Nina, you mentioned that it was around, that we're right now around the mother energy because of the Mother's Day. I think in Europe, Mother's Day is a different day, but not too far from ours. Here in the U.S., when any energetic has a mass consciousness around it, like this has a holiday, a Hallmark holiday around it, why do we want to talk about that? What's important to each of you today that we really are looking to convey to those who are going to listen to this conversation and watch this conversation? What is it?
Well, I think that one important thing is to recognize that not everybody had what Hallmark is forcing down our throat. And I've had people, when I've just mentioned, oh yeah, here's, how my relationship was with my mom. Oh, that's just regular mother-daughter stuff. Absolutely not. It was not regular mother-daughter stuff. And so I think that's what people think. It's like, oh, if you didn't have a good relationship with your mom, oh, that's just normal. No, it's not normal. And I think it's okay for people to speak that truth and say, hey, listen, I'm not accepting this garbage that corporations are shoving down my throat to go buy cards and buy flowers and all of this, because that's not how it is. And I'm certain there's a huge population of people out there that are resentfully going and buying that card or having to sit through a meal with, quite frankly, a crazy bitch, right? And at that, and in that, stuff their truth, stuff their feelings, stuff their emotions down to not cause trouble, to walk on the eggshells, to keep the peace instead of being honest and truthful and letting and being themselves. So I think it's important for people to feel okay with, like, yeah, this doesn't work for me and I don't need to do that anymore. And then there's also a healing aspect behind it. I never took the route of victim from what happened with my mom. It's like, I'm not gonna, spend my entire life, not being able to do this, that, or the other thing because I'm a victim of her whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's important for people to realize that they don't have to be that victim, and that there's ways to heal and recover from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good time to start when the energy to do something different than you would normally do, other than swallow that, have that meal, get those flowers, pick that stupid fucking card.
Exactly.
I've stood in front of those stupid cards and just gone. Some years, Lisa, some years I'll pick the card that I'm like, okay, a little more generic. And then sometimes because I'm like, oh, screw this, I'll just get the most absolutely untruthful card there could possibly be about how fabulous, and just send that, like, oh, what the fuck.
Right.
Lisa, what would you want? What would you want people to really hear in this story today?
Well, there's two things that kind of come to mind, and for as long as Mina and I have been friends, we really sort of match up on so much of this mother stuff. And even though our experiences and our mothers were kind of different, in a lot of ways they weren't, and the underlying messages lined up. But one of the things that they really came up for me just now, also in listening to what Mina had to say, is we collectively, all of us, we don't have to continue trying to fit into this little teeny box or role that our mothers and our families kind of conjured for us, and they try to keep fitting us into this, it's definitely like round peg, square hole kind of a situation where, our families, like my family, for instance, I will forever be the rebellious teen. And I'm about to turn 50 years old, but I am still that rebellious teenager, and it was from day one. So, and also I was the one that was responsible for anything that was bad or wrong within the family. It was my fault as a child. Of course, it was my fault because I was a child, right? It wasn't the adult's problem or responsibility. It was mine. So I think it's important for people to know that we don't have to continue to buy into or play into those roles that our families set up for us, because they're very limiting, and because we're much different, more mature, certainly more evolved than that. And that part of what comes along with that is practicing, healthy boundaries. And families, as a general rule, they don't like when you start setting down healthy boundaries. Right. They will balk, and they will get mad, and they will feel betrayed. And they're going to get pissed off at you. They may write you off, and, things like that. So I think it's worth mentioning that. And then I'm going to flip the script slightly and also just start to mention, because I'm sure we'll get into more of this, is for me, I will never forget, around the age of about 18, 19, writing in one of my many journals that the earth is my true mother. Oh, yeah. The divine feminine, the goddess, that is how I can connect to mother and mother energy and all its iterations. So I'm just going to kind of leave it at that, because of course I want to hear what Amber has to say too.
Oh, I love that image of Earth as my mother. For a long time, it's very interesting, because having brought up in the Christian tradition as a child, and then having developed just quite naturally, because I didn't have any other lexicon for it, that Jesus, who I now know as Lord Sananda, who I also now know as Lord Ashtar at the Central Galaxy, but I would hear him speak to me and call me his child, my daughter, my child, my daughter. So that from the father aspect, and then I was free in the woods a lot. I was on a farm, and those adults were busy, I don't know doing what. Adults stirred up like a bee's nest all the time. People were always upset, right? Mother was always upset. So when I wasn't in there trying to pat that down, I was usually outside. In the woods, in a tree, on a platform, because we built stuff like that, you know what I mean? And I didn't identify, Earth as mother until much later in my life, but I am sure I felt, just smelling her, just smelling the earth after it rained. I used to have a big affinity for moss. I would use that as carpeting. My cousin Jill and I would put it as carpeting in our little wooded hideaways. We'd go pull it up and lay carpeting. There's no doubt that was a very, like, being held, a sensation of being held, which is like of the mother. And I, like you, whereas I had a mother who told me she loved me and so forth, she was more like that wire monkey, because she was so, in the old psychological films in college, the terry cloth mother and then the wire monkey mother. I definitely ended up with anxious attachment, and some of the people watching today will understand that. Anxious or avoidant attachment, definitely attachment, poor attachment, right, and abandonment. So I think that's something the three of us share here as a recognition of Earth, Gaia, Terra, Eartha, Tiamat as our mother. I do want to mention something that I think is true about the three of us that I think people who are listening and watching might pick up. First of all, the three of us are what I would call our electric energy. We have a very electric, which is a verticality, which we're great friends and great sisters because of how we connect in the electric, vertical, masculine energy. There's something about all three of us that from get-go. We are this well, I think, and this whole and this third dimension because of that vertical energy that we came into the planet with. Those of our brothers and sisters who came onto this planet with more horizontal energy, which is more feminine as primary energy, okay? And by the way, the three of us also came with primary mental energy. So not just vertical, mental plane energy as our predominant molecular structure. Other humans who didn't came in with emotional molecular structure as the primary in their Merkaba, in their consciousness, or they came with horizontal, which is very feminine. Think water, right? Think emotion. And we come across, I am sure, as really empowered, powerful, and able to speak. So if there's one thing that I want to say to anybody hitting this who is like, whoa, these women, they can speak to this. They're speaking to my experience, and I feel powerless. I feel speechless. I feel like I can't make a change that those women are talking about. Take our energy. In other words, let our frequency and vibe at this very conversation empower you. Sometimes we have to borrow the vibe. Sometimes we have to fake it until we make it. Say, you know what, those three did it. So that's sort of what comes to mind too, because I'm looking at each of you and I know who I am. And I'm like, we represent part of the planet. The other part, it just gets so squashed and so voiceless, right? We speak for them a lot of time. We represent, right?
So I just want to say, you mentioned having like a Christian upbringing and background, and of course that's really prevalent through our society. So I think, part of kind of the matrix conditioning is this idea of like mother as sort of like, holy and untouchable, and she's perfect as like the virgin, and she's, self-sacrificing, and all of these things that we're kind of programmed to think and believe about mothers and motherhood, and she's nurturing and, all of that. And yet, because the three of us are talking and we're finding that there's a lot that doesn't add up that way for us, I can only imagine that how many people, if they really stopped buying into this notion and feeling the shame and guilt that they don't really truly own that notion that we're sold, they'd how many of them, if they're really honest with themselves, realize like, yeah, my mom kind of sucked, or, my mom's not a great person, or we don't really get along, or she's mentally ill, or whatever those things are. I think because I'm so open and honest and, about who I am and my own experiences, a lot of people don't pull punches with me. They're pretty straightforward, and they'll own that. So like, sort of like what you're saying, Amber, we've got like this embodiment piece that's really powerful. So when I speak my truth, I find other people are more likely to feel comfortable speaking those kinds of truths to me as well.
Awesome. So we want to share some practical things on how to deal with this, and what we can do, whether it's forgiveness or healing or opening ourselves up. So I'm going to share some yoga applications, but before I do that, I want to share a little story, because when I think back to this story, it makes me realize that the yogi was in me all the time. I didn't start practicing yoga until 1999, but in 1994, I was in Greece with my mom on a trip, just she and I, which I had my doubts about how that would go over a period of weeks in the first place, but I did it anyway. The night before Mother's Day, she got something up her ass and wasn't happy. Something that I had done, my behavior wasn't how she wanted it to be, her expectations. I was not living up to her expectations of whatever it was. And she just went on a rage all night screaming, called me the devil, called me the spawn of the devil. It was always about me and my father, that kind of thing, just screaming. And I had to sleep in the same bed with this woman, okay, because we had a hotel room shared in Greece. Everything you can imagine said to me about what a terrible, horrible person I was. Everything bad in her life was my fault. So, all of that. And then the next morning, it was Mother's Day. And I had to wake up and honor this woman. And what could I do? There was nothing I could do. I was halfway around the world, trapped with her, basically. If I had been home, I just would have left and not even acknowledged the next day. So the innate yogi, which we all have in us, everybody has that, woke up that morning, pulled out the present that I had brought for her and the card, went and picked a rose in the garden and gave it to her at breakfast, and basically accepted the way things were. There was no mention of what had happened the night before. That was always the case throughout the years. There was never any mention the next day of the horrible behavior, and no apology ever. So it was just a matter of accepting it. And that's a prime thing in yoga. It's part of the Yoga Sutras. There's one that translates as yoga is seeing life the way it is. That's the way my life was. That's the way that day was. And all I could do was accept it, because trying to do anything else but that would just cause me increased suffering. As when I started practicing yoga, and I didn't really even realize this until, over the years and years of practice, was that asana, the physical movement, is, it offers release through the body, release of any held emotions, any held resentments, any held anger, and simply moving and doing asana can help to release that. And if anybody's looking for something specific to do this Sunday to help them get through, I would suggest laying on their backs, bottoms of feet together, knees open, maybe a block underneath their back or a rolled up blanket for a supported heart opening and hip opener. With the support from a block or blanket, exactly. Mm-hmm. That allows that release to happen in a gentle and nurturing way, while we feel protected and safe. And so something as simple as that, even a forward bend, offers a release in a gentle and supported way while feeling protected and safe. So my suggestion would be, for this kind of thing, soft, gentle, restorative yoga to release and let go in a nurturing way for your body, instead of that kind of power, masculine, yang type of yoga.
Yeah, beautiful. And just listening, I don't know, Lisa, if you have this experience listening to Mina, but because words have frequency and resonance and magnetics associated with them in the quantum field and around our bodies, just listening to the words Mina was saying and then visualizing myself doing the movement. And then you saw me in my chair kind of open. Just doing that brought me into some more alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, everybody, you don't have to sit for hours. You don't have to do the hot yoga for days on end to get the benefit. You don't have to go after everything like it's a fitness or a race. It is literally applying self-love in these ancient methodologies and wisdoms that within seconds calls us back to ourselves and calls us into alignment and into well-being. Lisa, what would you want to tell us at this point?
Well, first off, I have to say, dude, I did that exact pose this morning. I had like one of these soft kind of balls, up my bra line, and then put my feet, the soles of my feet together, opened my knees, and just, did some breathing and settled into that briefly at the end of my fitness class this morning, and it was lovely. So one of the things that I am thinking of is essential oils. Rose and geranium are wonderful over the heart for self-love and for just heart opening, heart healing. Anyway, and then one of the primary oils that helps to connect to the mother is myrrh. So you could even make like your own sort of special, blend or something with some of those oils. Myrrh is the oil of the mother and the nurturing. And so I think that that's really interesting. Also, Lang Lang is the oil that helps us to connect to our more sort of childlike, playful wonder kind of, sense of self, which I love, and it makes sense because we need to mother ourselves, especially those of us that didn't have the kind of mothering that we wanted or needed. If you can just come to this place of acceptance, like what Mina was saying, and, just kind of understand, like what I was saying earlier, like you are probably never, ever going to get the kind of love and acceptance and nurturing that you want or needed from your mom. So if you can just have an acceptance around that and just release your resentment, there can be more room for forgiveness. There can also be maybe more room for compassion because our mothers just are simply not capable and not able to show up in the ways that we wish and want them to be. And us hanging our expectations and hopes on that is just going to breed more resentment, and we're just going to be let down. So we've got to honor, that inner child. Like, all of us at every age, I am now my own mother and the parent to the child that I was, and the 16-year-old that I was, and I get to turn to them, at young ages, or, certainly it's in here, and ask what they want and need. I get to notice that when I'm in a fear mode, and especially if that mode is has got like fear of abandonment beneath it, that I get to say, hey, it's okay. I'm here. I've got you. Everything's going to be fine. I'm not going to let anything happen to you. But then also I need to give those younger parts of me the opportunity to express the things that they didn't get to do at, at those ages, whether that's, having fun or listening to the music from those time frames, what have you, different ways to honor that inner child, I think is another way to honor that inner mother. And I have to mention that part of my own really incredible healing process through all of this has been the work of Bethany Webster. And her work is called Womb of Light, and that's WOMB, Womb of Light. I highly recommend people going over and checking out her website and reading her information, because just understanding the mother wound and how sort of pervasive and subtle it is and how subconscious it is, just reading about that literally felt like years of baggage being lifted and me lightening up and feeling validation and feeling understood and having a context and a framework for all of the pain that I carried for such a long time. So those are things that I just want to offer up.
Yeah, thanks for the book reference. And I think coming around my way, there are a few things from a mystical standpoint, consciousness standpoint, that I want to position with the people who listen and watch this with us. The first one is, this is Earth School, people. Never forget, this third dimension is Earth School. We came here to experience our energetic field and to engage with it with curiosity, to engage with it. There's an enormous amount of suffering in the third dimension. So of course, our primary relationships, our parents, are going to be the first place that we get tore up. That's just almost a given. Each of us here have kind of extraordinary stories. If we told you more, your hair would raise. But many of you have extraordinary stories too. But that's what we do on the third. And the other thing is, as healing artists that the three of us are, and as many of you are, as service to other souls, in order to progress through the human kingdom, what with given all of our incarnations in the human kingdom, in order to progress, you have to really address complex shit. And of course, you're going to have it with your parents. They're going to be, you chose them. I think that was the next thing I want you to be aware of. Yes, you chose them. You are highly sophisticated masters. You would not have come to this density for this time on the planet if you weren't. There's an act of alchemy that goes on to be able to get into this dimension. So you're amazing already there. But you absolutely picked the scenario that was going to be perfect for your blueprint. So that's another piece I want you to be aware of. I kind of took a couple notes to myself. The other thing I want you to be aware of is these people who are your parents, this mother who is your mother, has been a lot of other things at other lives and other points on this planet and beyond with you. They're your soul family. We've all played different roles with each other. The two sisters I'm looking at right here, we've been with each other a long time. We've been in different scenarios together across our, holography and our expression and the soul blueprint. So remember, there's a bit of largesse that kind of comes in and who your mother is today when you realize that they've played all kinds of roles with you as you have with them. And the last thing I want to remind us of is from a karmic patterning standpoint, people. You brought with you into this incarnation those aspects of self that needed to be learned through. You brought forward those original components of template that you didn't quite, you brought other really great groovy things that make you beautiful and fun and interesting and have a great job and be easy with this and good cooking or whatever and attractive. But you also brought the shit that we're going to have to dig out this time. You're looking at three women who brought the shit with the mother. Intense shit with the mother, right? That we really had to dig out. Not everybody brings it like this, but just remember that this is Earth School. And if you ever get that feeling like she had it easier than me, they had it easier, that one had such a great mom, look at that. There's even things called the Too Good Mother. Dr. Patty Ashley has a book out, Healing the Wound of the Too Good Mother. and she's a girlfriend of mine, and she will tell you all about that perfect mother that she was not, you know, living in the archetype of the too good mother. So there's a lot of ways to go about that. I think we have come to the end of this conversation. I have two things to show us. Number one is Kathumi came to the conversation. And Mina, I think you or Lisa at the beginning of the show kind of said this, or you both did. You already have wisdom within you. Remember, knowledge is learned, but wisdom is innate. Kathumi is here to remind you to trust yourself. You're now uncovering your own truth, which is what we've been talking about, okay? Uncovering what's true for you, the way you want to be with your friends and family and with your current mother. And then the final one, and I didn't know about Apsara's, and Lisa, you guys, Mina, might know about Apsara's hands. Apsara are playful female Cambodian deities. Okay, these are some, and there's some geometry in there. This is about achievement and completion, reminding you to honor your effort and work to this point. Be optimistic about your future, people. Stay to your path and just trust yourself. You know, trust that inner wisdom. So I'm so glad. It's always such a treat to see how our conversation circles over to then who likes what's showing up.
Yeah. Awesome.
Absolutely. I always enjoy these conversations, and I always feel that there's so much more that we could share and uncover. I will say I've just finished writing an article, and so I'm going to publish it in its entirety on my blog that's about honoring the divine feminine at this time of year and throughout the year and how to do that. So, you know, I'll be posting that over the next couple days, but you know, and also go check out Bethany Webster's stuff. Also, folks, if you need an excellent counselor who can also speak in esoteric, mystical terms, I've got to give a shout out to Amber. You know, show up to Mina's yoga classes and find your center and your stillness and release the stuff that holds you down. Come dance and play with me. You know, we have the three of us, we have a lot going on, and you know, make the most of this Mother's Day. Like maybe get out and nature and honor the mother in that way too.
Yeah. And I just wanted to also share that I fully realize and see and recognize the effort that my mom did put in to raising us. And I totally get that and honor it. And I know that she was doing the best that she could at that time, given her circumstances and the support or lack of it that she had. And so I don't hold any resentment or anger at this point. That would be stupid and pointless and never really have. But yeah, I just wanted to share that I do see and honor the things that she did that were on the higher vibe. So
we wouldn't be who we are
exactly.
had we not had those formative experiences, and those were given to us so that we could be the outstanding folks we are. And that goes for everybody.
Yeah,
all of you out there. Much love, everyone. I am Amber, the mystic.
I'm Mina, the yogi.
And I'm Lisa, the priestess. Thank you all so much.
Yep. See you next time. We love you.
Okay. Bye.